Last meeting of 2025. It is December 16th, it's 10 a.m. Mr. Nick Montague will honor us with the invocation, and right after that, right before that, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Homero.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, we are thankful for this day, and we're thankful for the Board of Supervisors. And we ask Thee to have the Spirit to be with them, to help them discern what is best for the county, and to make wise decisions. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Nick. Our first item is item 2A. It's a public hearing, information, discussion, action to adopt the Pleasant Valley Veterans Retreat fee schedule effective January 1, 2026. Good morning, Joseph.
Good morning, Chairman, Board of Supervisors. Before you this morning is a request for the adoption of a fee schedule for the Pleasant Valley Veterans Retreat effective January 1st, 2026. The Pleasant Valley Veterans Retreat was developed to provide a peaceful, functional environment for veterans, veteran service organizations, and the community partners to host programming, events, and rest-oriented activities consistent with its mission. In August of this year, staff presented the board with two fee structure options: a full cost recovery model and a reduced cost recovery model. Following that discussion and based on the direction provided by the board, the team has refined the approach to emphasize affordability, inclusion, and mission alignment. The proposed fee scheduled before you reflects the reduced cost recovery model. This approach balances the need for fiscal responsibility with the county's commitment to supporting veterans and service-oriented organizations. The fees are structured to help offset basic operational costs such as utilities, routine maintenance, and staffing while maintaining access to manageable and reasonable rates. With that, overnight accommodations, the private cabin, fully furnished cabin will with standard amenities, 110 per night. Single room barracks, 25 per night. Group barracks, 6 or more rooms, 250 per night. RV accommodations, $20 per night. Day use program is exclusive for facilities, grounds, meetings, and spaces, multi-purpose, and that's $400 per day. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Joseph. Supervisor Humphrey.
Okay, so excuse me. Okay, so this is what it's going to cost for a cabin to stay in. Is this for the vets?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, because I know Supervisor Klein always said he thought they paid enough already. So I was just curious to where that was. And is that paid by an organization or the vets that book it? Do we have some veteran support that is willing to pay for those?
Chairman Supervisor Humphrey, that's a really good question. It's a combination of those.
Okay.
So we're still networking for the 501c3 to be able to stand up its operations and to be able to network how those costs are distributed and who it's collected from, with the overall goal is to have no veteran have to pay. However, we do have some veterans that do go there and they want to pay that forward, so they do donate, if you will.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Supervisor Klein.
So Supervisor Humphrey, and you or Kathy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Joseph, but the goal is the nonprofit's going to pay these costs, so that when somebody comes and stays, for a cabin, they'll pay the 110 or a night or whatever it is. But my question would be, because like you said, some of these veterans will leave a contribution, donation, whatever it is. So is that going to go towards the cost of it for that day or 2 days or 3 days, or how are you going to figure that in there? Joseph?
We're still working on some of the details of how that's going to be managed, but the overall concept will be able to go through the 501c3 and then be able to see how much of a offset that would create. It's not going to, we're still working through some of those details.
Yeah, because over time now, we've seen enough people come through there that some people may not leave or contribute anything, and some people may leave a couple $100 for a night or something like that. So, but that'll be taken into consideration on these costs?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the other question I have was the $20 a night for the RV park. And so, or is that somewhere in the ballpark of what other RV parks charge or not? Because I was kind of looking at the one there in Young earlier, you know, a year or so ago, and I believe they were like $40 a night or something.
Chairman Supervisor Klein, you're absolutely correct. It's not priced to be competitive with the private sector or something similar. We looked at those prices, and this is where we scaled it back to be able to fit the guidance that we received from this board. So this isn't a full cost recovery.
The reason I bring that up, the RV park, separately than from the rest, is for those of you that don't know, the RV park isn't necessarily just for veterans. Anyone can rent a space in that RV park and stay a night, 5 nights, whatever it is. And that money that is generated from the RV park will go to the retreat as part of the operation costs or whatever. So and if there's a veteran that wants to stay in the RV park, well then obviously that's really not going to cost very much, if anything. So I think from my standpoint, I'd like to see something a little bit different on that $20 a night deal. And I'm not telling you how to do it or structure it or whatever, Joseph, but you see what I'm saying, right? And another reason I'm bringing this up is that RV park is going to get pretty popular because of the location and all of that. And I think what we'll see, especially through the fall time of the years, that RV park's going to be booked up.
Yes, sir. I absolutely see your perspective, and it's a good one. So with that, if we were able to drive this forward today, this would allow us to create the baseline, and then as we continue to develop the site, be able to bring back before this Board of Supervisors any additional edits or changes in covering something like that and establishing a cost for an alternative use like that.
Okay, so basically this is going to be a working document to start with.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Joseph.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
on that particular issue, maybe we can make a comment of, so if we want to do $20 a night for reimbursement for a veteran, if a non-veteran wants to do it, then maybe we just go ahead and have you establish today a $40 cost. Heard from Joseph that is, and you, that there's a $40 at another RV site located there, so maybe we could make that adjustment right now, if you were so inclined.
Thank you.
May I say
Sure.
one more question?
Yeah.
Joseph, and pardon me, I should have asked you a while ago. The full day group use, okay, so are we talking like a veteran group or a veteran family? Say somebody, I don't know, maybe wants to have a family reunion there for a day and you got veterans. Is that what you're looking at there?
Pretty close, Supervisor Klein. So it is going to cover a broad spectrum of uses. It'll be up to the 501c3 and also the administration to determine whether we want to expand it over into other uses, say as a family retreat or family reunion. The policies and procedures will kind of give guidance for that. But back to your point, the cost would be the $400 per day if it was to be utilized for that.
Because there again, there's some areas there on that site, as you well know, that offer a good chance to generate some revenue. And it wouldn't be necessarily for veterans for a day, a night, or whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So there again, we'll work with that and see how it goes.
Yes, sir.
Cool. Thank you.
So Kathy Melvin waved at me. Is there something that you feel you need to add to the conversation? since you're so involved in it?
There's Michael, okay. Michael, we've been working diligently with Joseph and Michael and the nonprofit regarding how we will collect fees. So Supervisor Humphrey, to your question, the way this will be tracked is that they'll go onto our website, onto PleasantValleyVeteransRetreat.com. They can make a reservation there. Those reservations will be tracked, and reports will be generated from that. So how much money the nonprofit then owes the county, either at the end of the month, a quarter, or however we decide to set that up. But we purchased that software, I want to say like 3 or 4 months ago, just ready to go and get this all in line so we could start doing that. But for the most part, what Supervisor Klein said is correct. There are groups that come out, or families that say, hey, I really like this place. We say, well, there's no charge, and they'll give like $500 just for 4 days. So there are people who want to pay back a little bit, and they really appreciate it. And then there's folks who say, no, they're not going to donate anything. But anyway, this will be there. They won't have to pay. At the end of the way, they go through and they make a reservation like you would for an Airbnb. So go through the steps, and at the end of it, there will be a coupon code. So if they enter the coupon code, then that will zero their cost out. But then there will be a disclaimer that we do appreciate donations. And so that's why they can donate to the retreat, to the nonprofit if they want to or not. And I think how close, Michael?
Morning, Chairman, members of the board. So the idea is we're working with an outside attorney to create a licensing agreement between a not-for-profit and Gila County Board of Supervisors. And so if this is approved today, we'll take the fee schedule and the legal description of the property in a survey we recently had accomplished through Public Works. We send that to the county, to the attorney, outside law firm, and by January, mid-January, we should have the final draft of the licensing agreement in front of this board for consideration. And that will create the legal pathway that the not-for-profit will pay the county these fees for any veteran that the not-for-profit determines could stay there at no cost or at a reduced cost. So I hope that explains it.
I have a question. So I believe that our original agreement with the federal government is that this would be a veteran use site. And so I just heard this morning for the first time that we're going to have the availability of RV sites for non-veterans. Are we in conflict with that agreement?
Sir, so what I'd like to do on that issue is take a look at the special use lease agreement again and maybe talk to the county attorney about the language that's in the lease, and then send out an update to all 3 board members after I gain legal counsel on that, if possible.
Yeah, I don't think like in the proposed bill that they say like exclusively veterans, but it says to provide veteran services.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I don't think that other people being to access it would be an issue.
Because that seems to open the door to all of it, really. I mean, why not rent a cabin to non-veterans? You know what I'm saying?
I think that was the only place we were going to restrict it, was just that they could utilize the RV site, simply because that's a big hunting area out there. And so a lot of people want to come out and park and use it to, to go hunting.
I want to make sure we don't get into legal jeopardy.
Yeah, no, we can run that by somebody.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, if I may, and I agree with Supervisor Klein and Mr. Minloff too, because if we have non-veterans at a trailer park for $20 a night, then we're competing with the Airbnbs and with the motels that are already in Young. And I don't want to undercut their business. I mean, if we're close to the same price, I think fine. But if all of a sudden that the county is renting places cheaper than the businesses that are already established in Young, I could see a skewering coming. So I would think that if you want to start at 20, that's fine. Well, I would like to be competitive with the businesses that are already established there for non-veterans.
Mr. Chair, and I totally agree with you, Tim. And from the very beginning of this whole project, the RV park was identified as a source of income to help support this project from the get-go. And so what it says in that special use permit is absolutely right, what Michael said. It's in support of the veterans the Veterans Center. Well, that's where we can have that extra money go into the pot for whatever needs to be done there at the vet center. It's not just gonna go back into the general fund at the county. If something like that was to happen, maybe it'd be looked upon differently, but that's what it's for, is for that.
A noble cause, certainly, but legally, we need to make sure that we're not conducting a business as the county in competition with other businesses. And so I think that is something I'd be more comfortable after legal gave us an opinion on that, and whether we need to restrict it to veteran only or not, how we conduct that.
So, what I would suggest is when we get that opinion back, let's do it in a work session so I can give you my opinion too.
Yeah, we'll have another work session on it.
Yeah.
Do we want to entertain a motion to adjust this, these prices in any way?
I think my 2 cents is I think we need to understand more of what we're doing. I mean, if this is a pilot and we can change the pilot before it gets activated, then I'm fine if you need this approved to go forward. But if you don't need it to go forward until we get, you said an attorney to look at that, then I would think that we would need to postpone it. But if it's just a pilot deal so that you can go forward, I'm fine with it without, and then we could adjust prices later. But I'm not sure now that the legal end came up. Joe, any comment?
Approved so that we can get the lease with the nonprofit
Okay.
that Michael spoke about.
Okay.
But I would maybe recommend that we go ahead and adopt these rates, just recommendation, adopt these rates, but have it exclusively for veterans. And that we do not, Supervisor Klein's giving me an eye here, but that it's just for veterans at this point until we get this clarification on using the RV portion of that for others outside of veterans. But have this rate just for veterans at this time.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, it would have been really nice to have a work session on this before all of a sudden we have to vote. It says information,
the
discussion, and action.
So the decision today, if I understand it, is to approve this. It is a fee schedule that is intended to be the beginning point that can be adjusted at any time going forward. And so, is there any other discussion before we open it up to the public?
If we need to do this to get the licensing started, I understand that. But let's bring this back in January to address it again. And let's put it on these guys to come back up with our figures and whatnot that they want, and then let's put a final vote on it at that point.
Well,
That work?
yeah, but if they need to get started with this in order to get the ball rolling forward, then I'm good with that. But I'm not good with the way the ball's designed, I guess, at this point.
We still have some things to iron out. So if there's no further discussion from the board at this moment, I'll open it up to the public for public hearing. Anyone in Globe wishes to speak toward this? Anyone in Payson?
No, sir.
Anyone on the internet? Thank you, Cassandra. I'll close the public hearing portion and call for a motion on item 2A.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to adopt the Pleasant Valley Veterans Retreat Fee Schedule effective January 1st.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Our next item is our regular work session item 3A, information discussion regarding all aspects of the ongoing initiatives to address storm drainages. And we have our Public Works Director, Christine Smith. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman and Supervisors. I'm here today to talk about the September and October storms and not only what occurred on that day, but also the items that we're still continuing to work through today and for the foreseeable future. We actually have a team here that's going to talk to you about different aspects. So we have Carl Melford, Carl, our emergency manager. We have Homera Vela. He is our project manager for Public Works. We have Tom Goodman. He is at the Payson office in case you have some questions about the infrastructure that we are going to be working on. And today in our audience, we also have the mayor of Globe, Al Gomeros, and the city manager, Paul Jepson. And I believe we also have some representatives from DEMA. You want to raise your hands? Thank you. And they are here today to help with continuing assessments of the damage and the repairs that are needed. So full house. So if you have questions, we really are hoping that we'll be able to answer them today. So just to kind of recap, we're going to go over the storm events. We're going to talk about what emergency management accomplished and what's still going on today with them. And then we're going to turn it over to Public Works. And we are all here available to answer any questions you may have. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Carl.
Good morning, Carl.
Morning. Morning, Chairman, Supervisors. So just wanted to give an update of, and this is going to be kind of a brief overview, and we can go more into depth in probably a later presentation on the functions that the Emergency Operations Center performed during these events. So 9:25 is when we got the call about the first event going on in Miami. We responded, and we're actually coming out of the valley. Came in as soon as the water was subsiding, and I think we were the first to show up when the barricades were coming down, and started doing that initial damage assessment. And quickly realized that this was going to be much more than two people could do in a vehicle, with a lot of the roads still being inaccessible to the large amount of debris. So we started getting some resources ordered to assist with that damage assessment, including the American Red Cross, DEMA's damage cadre of people to help out with everything. The following day, we got hit again, this time the city of Globe. This came into the evening hours. This event was a little bit more complex with the propane situation, the sewage issues, and of course, unfortunately, the search and rescue operations and recovery operations that had to take place with folks that were washed away. So what that initially looked like, I mean, we take classes and we learn about that incident command structure and what that looks like and everything, and it's a completely different world when it applies to real life, because initially it was what you consider a unified command between the chief of police, the chief of fire, and myself, working out of the Emergency Operations Center. Once resources started getting ordered, that incident command center, or the on-scene incident command, relocated to that Judy's parking lot until eventually building out and moving to the IBEW hall. So some of the resources that we ordered, to explain how that resource ordering goes, we're part of the Arizona Mutual Aid Compact through emergency management, which allows the sharing of resources across all the signatories of that plan free of charge. So we utilized that to the fullest. One of the resources that we pulled in to support the city of Globe was a complex incident management team to kind of coordinate those boots on the ground efforts, such as, you know, search and rescue, working with the sheriff's office, with the search and rescue folks, swiftwater rescue, and all those kind of complex things such as the tow vehicles, everything that was boots on the ground moving. That team was coming in to help organize that chaos. Another thing that a few more things that we brought in once we separated the emergency operations center from the incident command. So when that incident command team comes in and takes command, they have every resource that they could need administratively to run that operation. So we were able to separate and then start building out the emergency operations center. That same mutual aid agreement that we bring to you guys every so often was utilized to bring in some EOC staff initially from the state of Arizona. We get a few of our local state county EM folks to come over and help out in the EOC, and eventually started utilizing resources from the EMAC, which is essentially the same contract throughout the United States. So we got teams from New York, South Carolina, New Jersey, and Florida that came in to help and support. One of the resources that we ordered was actually to support the city of Globe. We ordered a municipal emergency manager to kind of lay that framework for the city and help them to build out a team that can do some resource tracking and everything. Because when it comes down to the end of the day, if we didn't document it, it didn't happen. So that helped with that documentation portion. We also brought in some specialists with debris management and specialists with finance, because those tend to be the two most complex parts of flooding events, making sure that we have all of that logged properly. Some EOC functions that we had also. One of the first things that we do is stand up a call center, because a lot of folks call in with questions about shelter locations, about resource availability, and if they don't have somewhere to call, they call the 911 dispatch center. And that dispatch center was already overwhelmed with the initial calls coming in, so this helps not only alleviate that and free them up to take emergency calls, but also get people timely information about what resources are available. And it's a pretty impressive thing to see in that call center, because those folks that work in there start with a white sheet of paper on the wall with "here's what we know, here's what we have available," and a couple days in, there's white sheets of paper all over the wall, and eventually goes digital, and it kind of builds and then subtracts as the incident needs change. Disaster assistance centers, we had I think 4 of those in total that we stood up and had resources available all in one room. We did them out at the fairgrounds initially because of the amount of donations that needed to be pushed out to the public, and then eventually into Miami and into a centralized area between Globe and Miami. So those were very well received and got a lot of those resources out to the public. We also did more in-depth damage assessments, had teams of volunteers and teams from the Department of Emergency and Military Affairs, DEMA, go out and do damage assessments for documentation purposes. And then we also did some volunteer coordination. We had a lot of volunteer groups that came in, Team Rubicon being one of the big ones, getting boots on the ground and actually helping with that kind of initial assistance to the individuals. Resource coordination, anything that's ordered during a disaster comes through the emergency management office. So we did have a pretty bolstered logistics section in the emergency operations center that was not only ordering resources for ourselves, but also for our municipal partners as well. Of course, emergency notifications, which is a pretty normal function that we do on the day-to-day, and then kind of resource tracking and ordering as well. Let's see. I think so. We have some images here. They kind of show the gravity. I know a lot of folks, when they come in after the flooding events, what it looks like a day after and what it looks like the day of are two entirely different things. So we put together some photos here that show just the sheer damage that this caused. This is kind of a mixed batch of photos between Globe and Miami. You can see a lot of the bridge and infrastructure damages here. Some of the stuff that you cannot see are the damages to the utility systems, such as water lines and sewer. And then, of course, private damage to wells and water systems, privately owned water systems as well. So that's what happened. Let's talk about where we're currently at with emergency management. So we're working with Public Works with that, I don't think we've named it, debris coordination group. We've started the process for the public assistance grant, which is the reimbursement for incident or response related costs and disaster related costs. We did establish a long-term recovery group, which is something that I'm proud to say we've got a lot of traction on. So to explain what a long-term recovery group is, it tends to be during emergencies for the citizens that once the disaster is over, a lot of those resources become unavailable or they get up and walk away. All the extra help that we get disappears, and then we have folks that still need help or assistance that's beyond what we as government can provide. So the goal of a long-term recovery group is to bring in volunteer organizations, private organizations, and address the specific needs in the public. The model that is utilized nationwide is pretty large scale, so we kind of Gila County sized it a little bit to make it a little more digestible. So we broke this down into 3 task forces. The first being the Economic and Community Recovery Task Force. This is a group of folks that are going to be addressing the needs of the community and the economy as far as just the functionality of restoring things to day-to-day life the way that it was before. A lot of really powerful nonprofits have come together to help out with this, not only local but statewide as well. Task Force 2 is the Health and Housing Recovery Task Force. They're going to work as sort of case management for the individual person that still has needs to make sure that they are plugged in with every possible resource, not just what government has to offer, but what that giant cadre of nonprofits has available, which, you know, there's a lot of recovery groups in there, there's faith-based groups, there's a lot of resources that came to play. And then finally, the third one is the Infrastructure and Natural Cultural Resources group. Chris Jones from U of A is helping out with that group quite a bit. And when we're talking about infrastructure there, it's mostly referring to private, because as we sit right now, there's not much that government can do to support private infrastructure. So this will kind of give them an avenue of resources to draw from. We did participate in an after-action report meeting with the State Office of Emergency Management. It was overwhelmingly positive as far as what the county's response was. I'm of course going to do our own after-action and be a little more brutal on ourselves, but all in all, the response portion went well as it can go in times of chaos. And I know that's hard to say, and in this line of work, it's hard to say out loud that chaos or just devastation went well. But as far as utilizing what capabilities we could provide to the public, I think between us, the city of Globe, and the town of Miami, there was a good overall response. So we will be doing some after action that I'll share with you all, and I'd love to have your input on as well. Plan updates, we tend to take those after action items, and if we utilized a practice that was not something that's outlined in detail in our plans, we will add that to the plans. If we utilize something that is outlined in the plan that didn't go so well, we'll make adjustments. And then exercise. We're definitely going to use this scenario to base exercises off of, to not only improve our processes for those who are involved, but to share those experiences and lessons learned with the rest of the county responders, especially on the northern side that weren't involved with this incident. And last is sharing the experiences statewide and beyond. We've already received probably 8 or 9 requests to present best practices and lessons learned with other partners throughout the state. This is critically important because a lot of the practices that we've implemented in the past have been learned from other incidences across the state. And it kind of promotes that continuity of education and best practices for the profession statewide. And I think that's all I have. Christine, I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you, Carl.
Good morning.
Oh, okay, we can do that. So Supervisor Humphrey, any questions for Carl?
No, I walked through a lot of it with him as it was happening, so, my hat's off to you. Thank you very much, Carl. I have no questions.
Thank you, Supervisor Klein.
I really don't, Carl, for you, but I may have for Mayor Gameros, and since this is a work session, we can discuss this. Did it go all right for you, Mayor? You won't come up?
Welcome, Mayor. Thanks for coming.
You bet. Thank you, Mr. Chair and supervisors. Yeah, you know, I was, from that very first night when it happened on 26, you know, driving downtown, the devastation that we saw, you know, was horrendous. You know, we've never seen that anything in our community. But I think the cooperation between the county and the city of Globe as we move forward, even that very first night, has been very well organized. You know, it was for us, our primary objective that night was search and rescue, and that really overwhelmed our resources. So it was good to get with cooperation with the county, to be able to bring a management team in to take over those responsibilities. That team came in, established their incident command at the IBW. We had morning briefings. We knew what was going on. So that took away from our responsibilities, and I'm sure the county to coordinate all that. But we went ahead as a city, established our own EOC in-house, trying to organize things to try and get things moving forward. And we're very appreciative again to be able to bring in an emergency manager within our system through the county and a finance. Again, this is all new to us, truly overwhelming. I was able to go to Hurricane Ivan in 2005 and saw the devastation, the flooding in North Carolina where I ended up. I never thought in our community we'd see that. That type of devastation. That's the same thing that we had here. So it really helped to bring that manager in and organize our unified command system. The county obviously had their EOC set up with their call center and everything, but it really helped us to organize ours as we move forward to finance. And working with DEMA and trying to get understanding the process, understanding the deadlines, understanding what can qualify for reimbursement. So all that is a learning lesson for all of us. And I think without the cooperation with the county and our staff at the City of Globe, I think we've done an amazing job to be in the point we are now.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, thank you for that. I don't have any questions. Thank you for all you've done. And
thank you.
Okay, Merrill.
Good morning, Chairman and board members. I'm going to continue with the presentation, but before I do that, just wanted to say a couple of things. First one is my commendation, my compliments, I'm impressed with the way Gila County has reacted to emergencies. We've had 2 big fires and 3 big storms in the span of a few years, and yet somehow the community comes back, finds a way to come back with the support of actually the bigger community. But nonetheless, the leadership that is sitting around the room and in other parts of the cities and the towns all across Gila County I'm very impressed, and I would like to say congratulations. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but and hopefully we continue on this path of continuing to find improvements to make this a better community. The second item that I wanted to share with you is normally when I've gotten up here to talk to the board and offer work sessions, I've exclusively almost focused on the board looking for input. but today I have other audiences listening. One of them is our DEMA partners back here. And how appropriate is it that we're sharing with you our plans and that DEMA is able to come visit us, because they were planning to visit us today and tomorrow, and that they listen to what our plans are and your input, and they can offer us input then later on today and tomorrow. And so when I go through the slides, I'll be aware that we have shared some of this information with the board, but that there's others that are seeing it for the first time, and so I'll walk through the slides like I would normally walk through the slides if you were listening to them for the first time. Is that okay?
Thank you.
So we're going to talk about the sediment piles that we have and the damaged infrastructure, how we're going to handle the sediments. Even though when we first started, we talked a lot about DEMA and FEMA, but also there's the NRCS opportunity that plays a big role in our strategy today. We're going to talk about costs, estimated costs, their preliminary numbers. We're trying to get them as firm as possible. There's risks. One of them is FEMA declaration hasn't been approved. When we submit for projects, they need to be eligible, and we need to do all the right things to get money from DEMA and FEMA. NRCS needs final approval, even though the state conservation has approved the projects. Headquarters needs to approve them as well. So, and then there's the action plan and the deadlines. We know that there's a time limit on NRCS, Emergency Watershed Protection, but there's actually also a time limit for DEMA and FEMA permanent improvements as well as emergency improvements. So time is very important for us. In some cases it is the guiding light, not so much cost, but the time. Can we do it in this amount of time? And so you'll be listening to those kind of things on the slides. The damage, this particular slide shows there's a utility. It looks like a water line, sediment under the bridge, undercutting. Almost every place where we have a low water crossing and you have an apron on the output end of that water crossing, there's undercutting that takes place where the water tumbles and eats away at the soil, and that causes a weakened structure. These are things that you see almost in every channel in Gila County today. Erosion alongside of roads. You can see somebody piled some rock there at the top of the left photo, and some emergency action that someone takes. But the next storm that washes out again, and we need to take care of those kind of issues. These are examples of the things that we're going to be addressing with some of the projects that you see. So let's talk a little bit about where our sediment piles and our debris piles are located today. And at the top half of this photograph on the top oval is where we have the sediment piles close adjacent to the landfill. There's approximately 14,000 cubic yards of material there. And the bottom oval on this photo, on this aerial, shows the debris, the household debris pile. There's about 600 tons of household debris in these locations. Now, in both of these places, the piles are separated. We have Storm 1 sediment and Storm 2 sediment on the sediment pile, and we also have household debris for Storm 1 and Storm 2. As we work with DEMA and FEMA, we need to keep the accounting separate. We need to keep the documentation, the testing that we take for these materials separately, and we need to record all of that as a Storm 1 activity and as a Storm 2 activity. Please stop me if there's any questions or comments. This is pictures of the household debris and pictures of the sediment piles. And we're going to show you an aerial of the sediment 1 and 2 in a minute. And these are aerial photographs of, again, the sediment piles, or photographs, I should say. Okay. So the pictures can speak 1,000 words. I think someone has told me before at this work session, but I'm going to tell you, spreadsheets can also paint a good picture. Okay. At least that's my opinion. So the blue highlighted area is actually information that was provided to DEMA. and that DEMA later on provided to FEMA. And this is an initial draft of the things that we would be doing in the various categories. Category A that you see up there is debris removal, okay? Category B is a emergency protective measure. And the other ones are categorized like permanent improvements. And the permanent improvements, both from a FEMA, DEMA, and from an NRCS perspective, are not that you're gonna build something new, but that rather that you're gonna restore what you had. It's kind of like the main objection, the main objective. For NRCS, besides restoring things like restore Russell Gulch, for instance, could be an NRCS project, but they also allow erosion protection measures like flood walls and bank stabilization. So those are the kind of things that you would see under the category C. Now, initially when the county reacted to what do we do now, it was let's approach DEMA and FEMA. Right now, we've asked FEMA to give us a federal declaration for Storm 1, but not for Storm 2. DEMA is, yesterday I've got an email from Gabriel with DEMA, and it was that Category A measures, if eligible, and we do all the paperwork correctly, are eligible for that 75-25% partnership with DEMA. So the rest of the items, we were looking for federal declaration. We were hoping, and this is the discussion that we have with DEMA today and tomorrow, is if we go through on any C item here, or a B or a C item here, would they qualify for the 75-25% for the Cs? But some of these things, as you'll see, fall off from the DEMA FEMA request and move over to the NRCS. So we may not actually have to be asking DEMA for monies for the C items, and we're going to be looking at that in a minute. The green highlighted information that you see on this spreadsheet is originally the costs were done very quickly, and they were like an emergency repair. How do we repair this embankment or this erosion alongside of the road? The idea was to just add material to that, but that's not going to work. That'll get washed out on the next storm. And so we know from some of the engineering work that has been done before on some of these areas that it's a higher cost. And the green is attempts to show what we think the cost estimate is today for repairing that under an engineering design, okay? The engineering design, again, is not going to be a 10-year event, that it meets a 10-year event or a 50-year event or a 100-year event. It's going to be to restore it back to the way it was within the constraints that we have today. It's emergency work, okay? And it has to be done in 220 days. Now, what the engineering team will do is they will give us feedback when they finish the design that this, we believe, will withstand this kind of flow. And we go from there, okay? Questions on that?
I got one for you, Homer.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When we design things back to the way they were, we already seen what kind of flow that it's not going to hold up to, right? And so if there's areas that we think might need more than that, then that's going to be another discussion on where can other monies come to beef it up better, correct?
Correct. And so, for instance, Tom Goodman, our county engineer, is working with the NRCS group for the longer term civil projects, if you will, that will address that. In Gila County, we don't necessarily have like a regional drainage plan. And we probably need to start working on that. Is what would be needed to support a 100-year event? Should we know that? And should we have an estimate of cost to do that for like Pinal Creek or Bloody Tanks? And so there is a lot of work beyond this point, okay? And we need to start thinking about those kind of things. All of Gila County, not just the southern part of Gila County, all of Gila County, because we've settled along washes and creeks, is subject to flooding. And I think one of the lessons that we've learned is Mother Nature can, and we can plan for a 100-year event. And then we have a 500-year event. So there's a limit to what we can do, okay? And normally in the United States, the limit is a 100-year event, you're doing good. Many of the roads in the United States, by the way, are not 100-year event roads, they're 50-year event roads. So there's nothing sacred about, is it a 50 or a 100-year, it's what is it right for the community at that part of the community? And decisions that the county needs to make with staff and with the board's guidance. Okay.
Thank you, Homer.
Thank you.
Okay, so sediment disposition, when I first heard about the project, it was perhaps we should take stuff to Apache Junction. We've done that before. We've hauled, when the landfill actually closed here, we were hauling to Apache Junction. At that time, the cost was $100 a ton. The tipping fee in Apache Junction has gone up, and the transportation cost would also go up, especially because there might be some E. coli contamination, or there may be some asbestos or whatever. But just take 100 tons. Today, the minimum cubic yards that we need to move is approximately that we are planning to move, but there's more in other places. 43,000 cubic yards, 60,000 tons. That's at $100 a ton, that's $6 million. You can multiply that by at least 1.5, maybe 2 to get a better number. So actually transporting material to Apache Junction would be very costly to a third-party landfill, the closest one being Apache Junction. And so we started looking for alternatives. And the Forest Service had allowed us to put material in Kellner Pit. We have some material. We approached the Forest Service and said, can we maximize the amount of material we can put in Kellner Pit? They were good with the idea. We're working with them. You'll see some slides on that in a minute. We're working with the Forest Service. At the same time that we toured Kellner Pit with the Forest Service, we asked them, is there other places? They said, yes, Castle Dome. We went to Castle Dome. That is a larger area that can accommodate more material than Kellner Pit. And the Forest Service is working to amend the Good Neighbor Agreement to allow us to do that. Of course, we have to test the material. And there's various tests. There's one test that you would do on sediment if you're hauling it to Apache Junction. You would test it for volatiles, semi-volatiles, hydrocarbons, and lead and asbestos. Okay? The Forest Service is asking for metals, heavy metals, and hydrocarbon. And of course, if we're moving material from what we suspect to be sewage and impacted sediment, we should test for E. coli no matter where we take it. So we would be testing for E. coli too from I think the one pile that we believe is impacted. So we have to do that testing. And before we can put any more material with the Forest Service, they would like to see that test. And you'll hear a little bit more about that in a few more slides. The other thing is we could utilize our property that's adjacent to the landfill. You're going to see a photo, an aerial photo in a minute that shows where those two piles are at, and you'll be able to see that we could utilize that if we had to. Other things that we can think about, if there is clean sediment somewhere in our property, we could even make that available to the public. But these were brainstorming ideas. With the top three, absolutely, we are putting a plan together around the top three items that you see up there. So the sediment piles, we looked at the sediment piles. We knew one of them was close to a flood. It's partly in a floodplain, and we were anxious because we thought it was in the floodway, and it is about 5 feet into the floodway. And so our plan is to move those piles. And the location of the piles you see here, one of them from Storm 1 is 7,700 cubic yards. The other one from Storm 2 is approximately 7,000 cubic yards, and you see them labeled up on the slide. There's a blue envelope that you see there, a blue polygon. That is the available area for sediment. When we asked our floodplain manager to work with what's the impact to runoff, and what happens to the neighbors next door with the runoff, he felt that we could put material anywhere in that blue polygon without affecting anyone. And so we have a large area. We could move those piles to the back and then fill up that blue polygon. This for us is kind of like a second resort. We first want to exhaust everything we can with the Forest Service, if Kellner Pit and Castle Dome, before we were to utilize that. The county needs an area for sediment deposition for the next storm, so that we don't scramble, so we know what we're gonna do with the sediment when the storms do happen. So anyway, this is the option that we have with this area for sediment deposition later on. For today, there's 2 piles there that we would like to move out of here. Kellner Pit, and we'd like to move them to Kellner Pit. Yes, sir.
Homero, if I may interrupt, so are these sediment piles at all useful to us to cover our trash? Or are they just so much extra that we need to get rid of it?
There is, every time I drive, I see sediment. There is a lot of sediment. Now these piles are very good calculation because the surveyors went out and surveyed them, but we have estimates on Russell Gulch that I think are understated. And you'll see more, there's a lot more sediment.
Okay.
And so I think if we find partners to help us pay for some of this, that we ought to take advantage of that. That's kind of like the strategies. We asked ourselves a similar question. There's gonna be a lot more sediment generated. We're partway through cleaning out the creeks. There's Bixby Bridge that has a lot of sediment on it. Right now we have a plan for the sediment between Hospital Drive and Bessage, but we don't really have a plan yet for Bessage to Little Acres, as a for instance. Okay. So there is a lot of material that we still need to collect.
Okay, thank you for that.
Chairman, I would just want to add that there is still a significant amount of sediment available for landfill cover from the previous cell that was built. We will have additional sediment when the next cell is built. So in a sense, this is all extra.
We're sediment rich.
We are sediment rich.
Okay.
And one other aspect is if we do receive FEMA funds, when we move sediment, it has to be its final resting point. So that has to be part of our strategy as well. We're going to touch it and then we have to be done with it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Kellner Pit, we have 2 piles of material. Actually, it's not as clean sediment necessarily. There may be some tires, there may be some debris, so part of the work that we would be doing with the Forest Service is to clear out the debris and leave the sediment there and bring more sediment to Kellner Pit. And so we have 3,400 cubic yards today. We wanted to find out how much can we actually put in Kellner Pit, and we had the surveyors go out there and they started with an existing area topo. Then they assumed a 3-to-1 slope from the high point to where you see the silt fence, which is the low point. And we said how much material will fit in here, and they did a little 3D model, and they came up with 18,400 cubic yards. But then we already have 3,400 cubic yards there, so we have 15,000 cubic yards available at Kellner Pit. And you can see when I was talking about 43,000 that we need other places to put material, and that takes us to Castle Dome. Okay. And we started to work with the Forest Service on Castle Dome. But again, they would incorporate it into the Good Neighbor Agreement, and we believe that they'll do that quickly. However, they are they want to see some test results, and that's where we stand with that particular project. So again, this is summarizing kind of like the strategy: haul to Forest Service areas where we can. Demolish the houses at the county site and use that remaining space if we have to. Evaluate the fairgrounds for suitability. There's probably one area in the fairgrounds not that far from the animal shelter that is kind of like somebody excavated there already once upon a time that we could use. Again, those are the first and second priority is Kellner and Castle Dome, and we're working on those, but there's other options for where we would haul this material. Again, it takes us back to what Director Christine Smith offered earlier, and that is that it needs to be a permanent haul. We don't want to be hauling this. It's too expensive to haul it anyway twice. We haul it once. Wherever it is, it's its final resting place. So when DEMA met with the county and to talk about how to proceed, they offered vendors. One of the vendors that was offered for integrating the sediment debris testing, the sediment disposition, was a company called Safeware Incorporated. We have been working with Safeware Incorporated on what would a scope of work look like for them to test the material, to monitor the activity, to record the activity. And they came up with what you see up here is something called project enablement. If you're taking material to a Forest Service, you have to test it for various components. If you take it to a landfill, you have to test it differently. They know all of that. They laid out a scope of work for project enablement to do the sampling and the testing and the evaluation of the sediments and to plan the work. They would actually have somebody on site from two companies. One of them kind of like an engineering company that does the project enablement. The other one is the person that's removing the material. The engineering company called Adams and Went that would be doing the testing would actually be on site all the time, documenting everything, because there's a chain of custody documentation that we need to provide to DEMA, FEMA, that they would be providing that to us so that we would be eligible for reimbursement. And then you see the various things, test and dispose of sediment at the landfill, 14,000 cubic yards. Test and dispose of household debris from landfills, 600 tons. Test, contour, and reseed Kellner Pit. There's some water that ran off a BHP pond. We'd like to have them evaluate that sediment downstream of that pond. And we want to test and dispose of Russell Gulch sediment and the flexamet that is still partly in the gulch and partly on Cecil Trucking's property. Those are the components of work that we're asking them to do. In addition, if time allows, we'd like to look at the rest of Russell Gulch from Base Beach up to Little Acres, and we're working on that. But one of the challenges there is that we know less about utilities in that area than we know from Bessage to Hospital Drive, because we've already worked on Bessage to Hospital Drive, and we have utilities were located once upon a time when they did that improvement last year or this year. I think they finished it this year right before the storms. And it's easier for us to guide a construction company, a debris removal company to remove it than it is. So we're working on how best to address the sediment from Bessage to Little Acres. And I'm just sharing that's work that's on our plate right now.
Oh, Mr. Chair, if I may, Homer, when they start testing that material, how long does it take them to run those tests?
2 to 3 weeks in total for the evaluation. Part of the scope of work is to rush them 3 days.
Okay.
But there's an evaluation where somebody needs to write up what to do if they're not clean. Okay. If they're clean, it might be a couple of weeks. Okay. Mm-hmm. So the Safeware is aware that we have a timeline, and the timeline is for them to complete the work by March 28th. We're asking DEMA for an extension if it's possible, but today we've told them March 28th. We have a scope of work that we submitted to procurement, and Olivia has submitted it back to us. I penciled in my remarks this morning because I couldn't get track change to work, but we plan to have that scope of work done in the next couple of days. Hopefully by the end of today, we submit it to the vendor, they get it back to us, and we can go and clear all the other hurdles that we have, county attorney and and get signatures on that so that we can start that testing maybe next week, okay? And these things, we just need to move quickly. So, other questions?
Thank you, Homero.
The debris sediment, I wanted to compare, the purpose of this was to compare what do we think we're gonna spend, how much Category A funding was in that DEMA spreadsheet that you saw at the beginning. And so I'll start with the blue font where it says total. There was $7 million of monies for debris removal and debris management in total. At this point in time, including removing the sediment from Bessage to Little Acres, 14,000 cubic yards. That's just a guess on my part, given that we estimated 14,000 on the other side of Bessage. It's about $5 million, $5.1 million to test and to haul and remove the materials. And so that was for me a sanity check on, is there monies available under that, at least under that initial draft that was turned into FEMA. Now, this includes for both Storm 1 and Storm 2. At the same time that we're working with Safeware, we're also working with J.E. Fuller. J.E. Fuller had already done a lot of work on these projects. They had plans that were 30, 60, even 90% done. And the projects that we envisioned for NRCS are projects that they worked on before for the most part, except for Copper Hills Road. At J.E. Fuller, in the scope of work that they prepared for us, they offered to assign one engineer, a unique engineer for each of the projects. They're reaching out to Civil Tech to do a lot of the structure work. They are aware of the 220-day schedule because they lived through the first time we tried to use, or the previous time where we tried to use NRCS. By the way, the county has done 2 NRCS EWP projects on time. One of them was Bloody Tanks cleanout. The other one was Gabion baskets in Tonto Basin. So we've had some successes, some small projects. These are huge projects. There's $20 million of projects that we envision between Russell Gulch Restoration, Copper Hill Road, 4 locations, Ice House Canyon at Albany Drive. Those are abutments to that crossing. 6 Shooter, where it's bank stabilization and the stream, some of the stream crossings. And another project, we're not responsible, we were not going to be responsible for any money associated with that. We would merely sponsor the hospital wall for the hospital, for the regional hospital. They would cover all costs. They would we'll work with the county attorney to make sure that the county is held harmless and do all the other right things to allow them to utilize EWP for that hospital wall. So J.E. Fuller has submitted a scope of work and we've had that approved by the chairman. And they are currently working and have been working actually the last couple of weeks. We had a meeting with NRCS, I'm going to say week before last. 8 folks from J.E. Fuller and their affiliate companies showed up. 7 people showed up from NRCS. Both outfits are wanting to get this done. NRCS was very supportive and very optimistic. Like I said earlier, the state conservationist has approved it. They're getting on January 8th. We have to finalize the work, an estimated cost, a conceptual design, and submit it to headquarters, if you will. And the NRCS folks would help us with that. They're going to guide us through what needs to be done. At this point in time, they brought somebody to do cost-benefit analysis. We're just going to make sure that they have all the information they need to do that. Again, there's risk in the project being approved, but at least at the local, state, and the state level, folks from NRCS are optimistic about that. So NRCS and EWP are kind of tied together. They're all J.E. Fuller projects are all NRCS projects are being designed by J.E. Fuller. Even the hospital wall has already a design by J.E. Fuller. So it's this one engineering firm. They're reaching out to affiliate folks that can do like the surveying and the civil work, so they don't have to do it themselves. You can see the timelines up here. From an NRCS standpoint, that's the wrong date there. We already know that's an old date. It's January 8th when we have to turn in the damage survey report on the NRCS, the blue rectangle. Funding would be available February 19th, and the substantial completion would be September 27th. And that's based on the January 8th date that we heard about last week. Okay. If you look at the DEMA dates, these are not FEMA dates, but they're rather DEMA dates. We have to identify all projects and turn in a 60-day report on December 28th. We have to complete all A, B, and B projects by March 27th. I believe that's March 28th. And the last line should read complete C projects on September 28th as well. So it's almost like the same September date for both of them, for whether it's NRCS or DEMA. So again, time is an important element in when we consider projects. And the entire team and J.E. Fuller are both aware that time is a driver in the decision making. So current plans is to move forward with NRCS. You see the correct date up there, January 8th. We've awarded the engineering contract to J.E. Fuller. They are working on it. We're holding weekly meetings with them where we're going to look at them at each project, one on its own, project by project, and not all of them together. Make sure that we've given them a priority, what's important, and what can fall off if the date is at risk. We're going to keep those weekly meetings going and make them useful to successfully complete these projects. On one of the things that we want to make sure that a contractor, that we can hire a contractor quickly. We believe that the contract manager at risk is the appropriate tool to use for the bigger projects. We are not excluding job order contracting. We are also looking at that, but we're pursuing very aggressively the CMAR process. One of the big advantages of that is, number one, you've already when the design is done, you've already contracted them. And what's more, they've been helping J.E. Fuller with the design along the way. So basically, you could actually require them to give you a guaranteed not to exceed price once the design is 100% complete, because they've been working with J.E. Fuller. They've been privileged to all that information, and they can start building their cost long before they get to that point. Of course, the selection of a contract manager at risk, you cannot take cost into consideration. You take qualifications into consideration in the decision making of who you select, but the cost and the fees that they would charge you are negotiable. You can ask to see that they are valid in terms of market costs, and you can use other methodology. I think Supervisor Klein has suggested to us that maybe there should be a third party involved in estimating cost as well. So there is a way that you can ask them to show you that what they're guaranteeing as a maximum price is valid for the work that they will be doing. Okay. Of course, we're guided by procurement and all of this, and by our county attorney, and so we will make sure that we're in full compliance with the state requirements, because that's what DEMA and FEMA both require. And the DEMA FEMA funding, the NRCS, by the way, pays as you go. When you submit an invoice to them that you got from a contractor, they have a certain amount of time. I think it's something like 30 days in which they need to pay you. So we submit an invoice, we get paid. Maybe we've already paid the contractor, but the time lag is very short. It's weeks, not years. The DEMA FEMA funding, it doesn't work that way. It takes longer to get the funding, to get the reimbursement. And so that's something for us to consider. And from the FEMA standpoint, if you don't meet all requirements, even though perhaps that item was approved by FEMA. At the time of auditing, everything needs to be right, or else I don't know what happens to that funding if they don't reimburse us because of that. But there's that risk and that unknown. Any questions on that one?
I'll say this creates a bit of a conundrum because FEMA, of course, hasn't even gone back with us. So to me, they're kind of out of the picture, in my opinion. I don't know if they're planning on coming in, but you're telling me too that, or telling us that if they decide, well, that just doesn't qualify anymore, they won't pay us. So that's kind of risky. So the NRCS pays quickly, and they're a 25% match, and DEMA is a 25% match, but doesn't pay as quickly. How long do they take to pay?
It's not a. I'm going to ask Carl or perhaps even DEMA to help us with what the time for payment is. Would that be all right?
Sure.
So, how the public assistance grant process works is we submit our eligible costs to the state. It's the same process that we would use under a federal declaration, just reviewed at state level rather than federal level. And that is paid out of the governor's emergency fund, which is allocated, I believe it's $1 to $2 million a year for the entire state. So they have backlogs, reimbursements going back currently approximately 10 years. So that's about where we're at with that.
Can you call the governor and tell her that doesn't work for us?
I am but an emergency manager, sir.
Okay. Thank you. 10 years? Okay. That helps me understand.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yeah.
Well, Mayor, how much money is the county gonna have to come up with to get these projects covered? I mean, we're talking millions of dollars on the board right
Glad you
here,
asked that
so.
question. And this is the next slide.
It's on the next slide?
Yeah.
Cool.
And so this slide, the green items, the blue item up there is DIFM at the very top. We would remove the sediment from Russell Gulch, submit an invoice and get paid in 30 to 45 days, okay? The green items are what we're proposing to do with NRCS. They total $19 million, of which the county's 25% share would be $4.7 million. NRCS would reimburse us as we go, $14.2 million. Okay. The orange colored highlighted area is DIFM, DEMA, FEMA. They're mostly all category A's and B's, except for Pinal View, that's a category, and Bixby Bridge, those are C's. We have, if you were to include all of those items, there's total FEMA is $5.5 million, of which our 10% share is $550,000. If we were to go with FEMA, if FEMA were to have we would get a federal declaration and we could seek reimbursement under FEMA. We only pay 10% of that 5.5, so we would be paying 550, and then the Fed reimbursement would be 4.9. Now that changes if it's DEMA, then we would be paying 25%, and you take 25% of 5 million, it's approximately a little less than $1 million. So following this, the numbers that are up there, that we would be submitting to FEMA under a federal declaration, the cash outflow for the county, while we await FEMA reimbursement, would be $10.2 million. Once we get paid by FEMA, the county share in total would be $5.3 million. So for the county to undertake this, the county needs to be prepared for a cash flow of $10.2 million, okay? and then we wait for reimbursement from either DEMA or FEMA on some of that monies.
Mr. James, do we have that kind of money?
Not sitting around, no.
Options.
Are we to that point to discuss options?
Are we?
I thought it was work session. We can discuss it right now, can't we?
Sure. There's a number of different options. Well, some of that we can, probably not a popular voice is that we don't do some of the projects. That we just don't have the financial resources to be able to do all of these projects. Another one is probably financing. Marin and I met with our financial advisors last week and talked about the different options. And so they're putting together a package just for informational purposes to consider financing options. Not a popular thing, but I will say that we do have a flood control district, and there's been a number of comments that potentially to fund a financing of whatever format that looks like is to enact a tax in the flood control district to pay for this flood, rather than just using general fund resources to pay for whatever you as a board decide to do.
Okay, so we can scale back, we can borrow money, and we can raise taxes. Those are three options.
Three options.
Okay, yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Minlove, are we not asking the legislature for some funding to help us in flood remediation and mitigation?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Humphrey, yes, that's absolutely true. That Representative Marshall, I believe, has put in a bill, submitting a bill to request up to $25 million of direct funding to Gila County and the municipalities in Gila County to address these needs.
So would that not be a fourth option to help us?
Yes, absolutely true.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may. You know, Homero, we go through this list of stuff here, and you know, the unfortunate part of it, it's a real little Band-Aid on a real big problem. We're addressing just limited areas of our drainages. Not only are we just addressing limited areas, but when we address these areas, just like we did north of Bessage Drive and cleaned all that out, next year it could fill it all right back up again. You know, and so I look at that, and it's like, we're going to spend millions of dollars to do this, if we do it all, or able to do it all. That may not last beyond next spring. We don't know. And I think that's a discussion that we as a county ought to be having one of these days in a work session form, and invite the mayor of Globe, mayor of Miami, and other people to address these, because as Homer had stated earlier, we're built in the drainage bottoms. That's typically where we're at. But unfortunately, we only take pieces of that to address and tend to. So, you know, I'd be the first to say we're here to help our constituents as much as we possibly can. But I can see a whole lot of consultants and engineering firms and other people that's gonna make a ton of money off of this deal. And so it's something I think that really needs to have a roundtable discussion one of these days, not too far off.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Klein, roundtable discussion with the other governments that have been impacted.
Exactly. You know, because what we're talking about, you know, Mayor Gameros, he still has Pinal Creek coming through the middle of Globe. You know, Bloody Tanks Wash is still coming through the middle of Miami, and other issues too as well. I mean, there's still a lot out there that's gonna somehow need to be addressed eventually. We don't know when the next flood's gonna be. We don't know how big the next flood's gonna be, but there will be a next flood. Guarantee you there will be. So,
Well, we can expand the discussion, and I think that's all worthy to talk about, because the more we can move toward preventing future damage, the better, but we don't have the money now to mop out the current problem we have.
well, and let me point out one more thing. This goes back to the Mescal fire, the Telegraph fire, and everything else that we beat our head on the wall and fight with the government over, trying to get the bear teams to mitigate a lot of that damage, and they don't do it.
Right.
You know, and then here we are, we're waiting on maybe FEMA to step in here and give us a hand. Government, bureaucracy, that's what it is, federal bureaucracy. But that goes back to those incidents. A lot of this does. I'm not saying all of it does, but a lot of it does. And, you know, that needs to be pointed out to someone, that, you know, we're in this fine fix because a percentage of our issues was caused by those projects.
Absolutely. But no one looks back that far, except you and
Well,
a couple others.
maybe that's why we should be looking back. We're sitting in these.
The massive fires is what's caused this, and it'll keep going too.
That's great input, and those are big picture kind of input. And it gets back to what's the regional drainage solution? Is it sediment ponds up in the forest? And that takes more than 220 days. But those are discussions that need to be had and should be held. And we need to start that process that says what is a longer term solution to reduce the amount of sediment that we get, because right now we get the sediment that Mother Nature wants to bring to us with no interruption on our part to hold it back. In Coconino County, they have those sediment ponds, okay, and that's got to be part of the solution. I'm not going to say that that's all of the solution, but I'm going to come back to this chart here, okay, and what this chart shows us on the green side, it shows us things we need to do, otherwise you're going to lose Six Shooter, you're going to lose Copper Hills, and Ice House you may or may not lose, but that crossing is going to get worse, okay? These are things that if you had HERF money or if you had some money, you would be doing these kind of things anyway, okay? It's just, and now you have a partner that wants to pay 75% to do it. You have an engineering firm that is charging you I'm going to say $500,000. That's the contract that was signed off to do $20 million project. That's a half. That's a fraction of what you would normally pay an engineering firm to do. You'd pay them $2 million. That's 25% of what you normally. Why? Because they've already done some of the work. Okay. On the orange highlight, a lot of that cost is because we didn't have a place to put the sediment. And so that goes back to Castle Dome and the area by the landfill. And even beyond that, we need to be thinking, if we get a storm, before we can put those sediment ponds in the Forest Service, where do we take that sediment so we only handle it once? Because this thing about handling it twice and then it gets contaminated, now you can't haul it anywhere without, especially under a FEMA reimbursement or a DEMA reimbursement, you've got to test it. But if we had a permanent location to take sediment, you wouldn't have that number up there. And that's a simpler solution. It's just, and that's why one of the alternatives that we had was to keep that lot by that landfill completely vacant of sediment and haul whatever's there somewhere else today. So at the next storm, we don't have to seek reimbursement from folks to move the material. And I just want to make sure that we focus on those things. Some of them is, some of these things are things we want to do, would want to do after this storm. And we have partners that want to help us, okay? And so I'll leave it at that and take it other input.
So another option would be, well, not another, but to expand on the first option that was given, do part of the projects. The green projects, which would be your NRCS projects, which are the most financially appealing to me. where we're not having to literally have the cash flow go to a department that may sit there for years before reimbursement. To do those as a priority, and the FEMA-DEMA portions where we're not gonna get reimbursed, and we've gotta lend them the $5 million to get the project done, and also pay our match, may be a lot less palatable. Can we forego those without public risk and all the other issues?
No,
No.
not in my opinion.
We, in the restoration of Russell Gulch, you have to remove sediment. Okay? And the NRCS project is looking to restore that portion of Russell Gulch. And we were trying to use DEMA money to remove that sediment off-site. And again, we're trying to create an area to put sediment in the future. We could prioritize the highest priority things, but many of these things. Canal View Drive erosion, $20,000. That's not an important item from a dollar standpoint. Bixby Bridge, it was debris removal. For us, the urgency of Bixby Bridge right now is guardrails and scour, not so much debris removal, but again, those are the two small dollar numbers up there that if you take them off, they doesn't really matter. Emergency P&E, we've already incurred that cost and we're asking FEMA to reimburse us at $336,000. That's money that we spent already. And so you're left with debris management, is the testing of the debris, clearing out Russell Gulch, and clearing out the two piles that we have in that landfill lot. And those are the bulk of the money that you see up there. My opinion is Russell Gulch should be cleared out, and to make room for future stuff, the sediment on our lots, we need to do something with it.
Homer, if I may, Mr. Chair. Homer, have you talked to BHP, the mines, anybody like that? Are they needing material anywhere?
Actually, the contractor that works for Safeware, they contact the mines and they told them no. That was the contractor doing that. I have not talked to the mines.
It might be worth a discussion. I see that we have to move some debris piles and get it away from us and make more room. I get it. It's just, well, we don't have a lot of room.
Right, but
So
when we have a figure like this, 3.38 million debris removal, is that our cost to do the debris removal, or are we hiring someone to do that?
Oh, we're hiring someone to do that.
Okay. But there's no cost as to where it's going. In other words, like the locations that you've identified, Castle Dome,
Kellner Pits, Castle Dome.
But we're not being charged a fee for that.
Correct, we're not.
So this is the hauling
The
fee.
testing, the hauling, the documenting, the monitoring.
Okay, so location doesn't matter. We could dump it out at the county fairgrounds in the canyon. It'd be the same cost as putting it on Castle Dome.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Chairman, supervisors, I just want to add that the list that you see today was longer. So we've already culled out things that we think we can do internally or don't put us as at much risk as these locations. It is very complex and it's a domino effect. If we don't clear out the areas, we get another storm, our infrastructure is in more danger. And so it's a challenging situation, and I don't envy your position right now.
And that last slide doesn't help us, but it's information anyway. December 16th and 17th, DEMA is here. We're gonna visit with them on all the sediment removal areas. We're gonna share with them again what we're doing with NRCS so that they know that we'll be approaching NRCS on the other project that were on that DEMA list once upon a time. We owe DEMA on December 27th the list of things that we're going to do. Sediment removal, okay? And we owe NRCS a conceptual cost and design, estimated cost, and a design, a conceptual design on January 8th. Those are the immediate things that are looking, that is on our very near-term schedule. And so we'll walk away from this meeting with your input. What I'm hearing is NRCS is a good strategy. Is there anything we can do to reduce the cost for sediment removal? Is what I'm hearing. And any further guidance would be appreciated.
Homer, maybe talk to the Bureau of Reclamation and tell them to chip in, because the sediment we're taking out, it's less sediment they'll get in Roosevelt Lake.
In the lake.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Omar, I'd like to back you up a little bit. We went through sediment and sediment and sediment several times. But I don't believe, or if we did, I missed it. What are we doing with the household debris? There's a large pile of household debris, and I did not hear that addressed.
That's embedded in the cost of debris removal. No, I'm sorry. That's included in one of these costs up here. Debris management, including testing, let's see, debris removal. That's in the debris removal line.
Okay. Okay. So we're gonna be able to, and are we gonna haul that to somewhere else? Because that's household stuff.
Anything that's not clean sediment or approved sediment, because they may allow something, the Forest Service may allow whatever they allow. Anything that's debris goes to Apache Junction.
Okay, so
It's specifically the 600 tons.
So that 600 ton is household debris that's not going into our existing landfill, that's gonna save it some life.
Correct.
Okay.
And it's more than likely asbestos contaminated, and the cost that Safer offered compensated for the asbestos.
Okay, good. And in that, I would like to thank Aaron Godiga for when we were going through the storms and things were happening, and our interim public works director was in Hawaii, and our engineer Tom Goodman was out of town. I worked closely with Aaron and everyone else on the team, and Aaron came up with putting that aside for this purpose. So my hat's off to him for saving our landfill 600 tons of debris so that we're able to do something else with it. I think he did a great job by doing that, so I'd like to thank him. And then another question too is a lot of these projects are 220 days, and going with one engineer firm to do all the designing, is that going to hesitate us any at all by maybe reaching out?
So I'm sorry that I didn't explain that well. J. Fuller will have one unique engineer. Engineer A for project A, engineer B for project B, okay. Engineer C, and the supporting folks that support them are also unique, so that it's going to be this group works on project A and this group works on project B.
Okay, good. And then as far as contractors too, once the design is done, are we reaching out to multiple contracting firms to see who'd be interested on working with this design? Or do we have a contractor that's capable of putting a lot of manpower in rural Arizona to accomplish a lot of projects?
The idea right now is to have one contract manager at risk undertaking the bulk of the projects. There's a lot of economy of scale, just like Safeware. Safeware said, if I can give you these prices, but I need to do them all at the same time. And they'll move equipment from one side to the other. They'll move people from the supervisor from one side to the other. And they found it to be a great advantage to be able to do that.
Okay.
And so we're looking for one contractor. When we advertise, they're gonna know when we advertise, and we would like to advertise starting December 26th, is that the size of the project and the time frame associated with the project, so that those that can submit, and those that can't, hopefully they don't submit. But
Okay,
whoever submits will be evaluating their qualifications to be able to do $20 million worth of work in 220 days.
Okay, good, because all of these projects are in District 2. And a lot of the projects prior from our flooding and our fires and stuff have been in District 2, and we ended up giving the money back because we couldn't get the projects done. And so, you know, it's unfortunate that all these are here, but yeah, I would like very much not to give much of the money back this time around.
We are working toward that goal.
I understand. Thank you.
Supervisor Klein?
Good.
So, Homero, thank you. What I've heard today was that all projects that you have presented are highly worthy of completion and trying to figure out a way of paying for it and going forward. So, Mr. Menlove, what I would like to see as you work with Marin on options, and one of those options was to go ahead and monetize the flooding district, what that would look like and what those numbers would be and what that process would be. I think we just need to look at all of our options, not necessarily pushing for any one right now. I do want to thank, and I know you have a comment, it looks like, I want to thank Carl and Christine and Homero and the people that came from Globe and from DEMA for coming. Very appreciative of that. Are any of you interested in making any comments before we finalize this topic? No? Okay. Mr. Menlove.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Bailey, you made a comment about potentially getting a contract out or something the end of December. I'm wondering, if we need to, does the Board of Supervisors need to be prepared to come together to make decisions on awarding contracts or something like that over the next couple of weeks? Because we've got to keep this moving absolutely rocket speed. What do we need to be prepared to make decisions and moving things forward over the next few weeks? Because we don't have another meeting scheduled till January 6th.
So, County Manager, Chairman, Supervisors, currently we are still working under the emergency declaration, which allows the chair to sign contracts. At this point, in order to have a chance to complete this work within the defined timeframes that Homero discussed, there are 3 critical contracts that we will be recommending go forward. One is J.E. Fuller, the other will be Safeware. Another one is with the FEMA documentation company. And Homero, am I forgetting anybody?
ESR is one company, and there's another one.
Okay, so maybe another firm. That work is, again, so that we can meet these time frames. We will not go into a construction company contract until we have gone through the selection process. And so it's probably around that time frame we would need a meeting if there's going to be more discussion on those costs.
Which is expected to be early January, Mr. Chairman.
Olivia, do you have an idea? Come on up.
So, my understanding from the conversations that we've had with Christine and Homero is that we want to do a request for qualifications process for the construction manager at risk. So I have been working on an RFQ packet that would need to be advertised. All that the RFQ does, it's not getting pricing. It is asking them to submit their qualifications, and we are giving them, these are the projects that we would want them to do the work on. We're asking for references, you know, all sorts of things to help to make a good decision regarding who would be the best qualified to serve in that role. Then there would be discussions negotiating price. So in the immediate future, what we're looking at is advertising that RFQ, which I believe could be done just with the chairman's signature to authorize the request to advertise and getting that advertised out there. The deadline, I believe, for the RFQ, we're trying to make it a very abbreviated process as much as possible, time being of the essence. So we would look at having those statements of qualification submitted in January, and then we can do the evaluations and negotiations and bring a contract forward.
Mr. Chairman, just to bring information out, is this something, putting out an RFQ is, I don't know, at best probably 4 weeks. Would it, is there a state contract construction manager at risk that we can consider?
So I know that Carrie Kittrell in Public Works was looking at all sorts of cooperative, whether it was state or through any of our cooperative partnerships. I don't believe, I know that she identified some possibilities, but I don't believe that any of those were selected. I think it was decided to try with the RFQ process.
There have been challenges identifying that type of contract. The other mechanism is a JOC, and we have found some potential JOCs. But to Homero's point earlier too, was that economy of scales and trying to get dedication to the projects versus splitting them all up. I'm not going to say that process has been fully exhausted yet, but we went ahead and moved forward with advertising for the CMARs as a backup because we haven't been successful yet in identifying anybody that we can immediately work with.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Sir.
When you put out for qualifications for contractors, who looks over those qualifications to be sure they're qualified?
So procurement only does an evaluation in terms of responsiveness for making sure that they've checked all of the boxes, you know, they've submitted all of the required forms. We then give it over to the department, which would be Public Works in this case, and they would perform the evaluation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Are we done discussing this item? We all set? We've hammered it enough. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. A lot going on there. Let's move right forward with item number 4. It's our regular agenda items. 4A is information, discussion, action, authorize the advertisement of request for proposal number 0817-2025, healthcare for in-custody adults. We have Sarah White with us, and we have the sheriff. And,
good morning, Chairman and
Yeah.
We're happy to come before you this morning to bring an agenda item asking to advertise for requests for proposal for healthcare for our in-custody adults in our detention facilities. We've talked about this over the last several years. Staffing challenges and public safety are an issue state and basically within the entire country. Detention and the healthcare inside the detention facility is no different. We struggle to get and keep general nursing staff. A lot of it is wages. They can make higher wages going into more of the hospital and private setting. And then the other thing is the detention facility, the environment in which that nursing is as well. What we would like to do is we have a contract right now where they provide, we have a contract with a vendor that provides nursing on an as-needed basis in like 12-week periods. What we would like to do is go out and request proposals. This is the first step to even see what's available out there and what the cost would be to have basically a contract where a vendor would come in and take care of all medical services within the detention facility. With that, I'll take any questions that you guys have.
Thank you, Sarah. Supervisor Humphrey.
I have no questions.
Supervisor Klein.
I don't either, Sarah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. With that, I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion to authorize the advertisement of request for proposals number 08172025 as presented.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, guys. Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Item 4B, information, discussion, action to approve economic development agreement number 2026-0159 between Gila County and the Christopher Coles Fire District in the amount of $7,000, which the board has determined to be for the benefit of the public. Supervisor Klein.
Yeah, so this is mine, and you participated in a lot of this as well, but this is for the Christopher Coles Fire Station that's located between Ponderosa Springs and Colcord Estates. And when we first attended, I believe it was a HOA meeting there, we found that they didn't have any water there, which is a little bit tough for a fire station, and no septic facilities. So at the time, me and Supervisor Christensen gave them some of our constituent funds in which they did drill a well, and then they proceeded on with the septic system. But because of the tests and the ground and all that, they needed to go on with a more in-depth septic. So they used $1,000 of the $10,000 we had given them, but the added cost is going to cost them an extra $7,000, and I have agreed to give them some of my constituent money to help pay for that. Any questions?
Supervisor Humphrey.
I have no questions. That's pretty nice of you there, Woody, to keep those guys rolling.
Thank you.
Thank you, Woody. I have no questions. So with that, I'll call for motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve economic development agreement number 2026-0159 between Gila County and Christopher Coles Fire District as presented and which the board has determined to be for the benefit of.
And I'll second that.
Motion and a second to approve. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Item 4C, information, discussion, action to approve economic development agreement number 2026-0164 between Gila County and the Miami Genesis in the amount of $2,000 to support the small town Christmas event. It's held on December 20th, 2025, which the board has determined to be for the benefit of the public. Supervisor Humphrey.
Yeah, this is something I like helping the town of Miami with. They do a great job. They do a lot of things for the youth, you know, like in books and things of that nature on this small town Christmas, as well as entertainment for the community. I think it's a good thing for the town of Miami. Well, and even Globe Centralized Claypool go there too. So I think it's a great effort on their part, and I enjoy supporting it.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Klein.
Oh, no, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good to, as well. I'll call for a motion.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion to approve Economic Development Agreement number 2026-0164 between Gila County and Miami Genesis as presented, and which the board has determined be for the benefit of the public.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Item 4D, information, discussion, action to approve amendment number 4 to professional services contract number 081723 with election systems and software with Gila County for election electronic poll tablets and ballot on demand printers. The amount of $143,949, not to exceed $199,970.66 for the term of April 1st, 2025 through March 31st, 2026. Good morning, Eric. What is this about?
Good mid-morning, Supervisor, or Chairman Christensen, Supervisor Klein, Humphrey. Last time I was before you, it was the acknowledgement of a grant that we had received, and it was also the plan going forward to what we wanted to do with that grant money, which was the procurement of new printers and tablets for our aging election software system. So this is just before you now. It was the contract for that you can sign off on.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Humphrey?
I have no questions.
Supervisor Klein?
I'm good, thank you, Eric.
Yeah, and I think I don't have any questions other than to clarify, this is not changing our system in any way. It's just upgrading the outdated equipment.
That's correct.
Okay, very good. I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve amendment number 4 to professional services contract number 081723 with election systems and software as presented.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Okay, motion and a second to approve. Those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you, Eric. Merry Christmas. 4E, information, discussion, action, authorize the advertisement of invitation for bid number 0904-2025, janitorial services for the procurement of janitorial services in northern and southern Gila County. Good morning, Emma.
Good morning, or afternoon.
What time is it? That clock's not moving anymore.
It's almost exactly noon. So this is just the request for bid for the janitorial services for northern and southern Gila County. Any questions? It's pretty straightforward, so we just want to go out for bid for it.
Okay, great. Supervisor Humphrey.
I think I read in the back is, well, maybe. So this is just for them to keep going, but it is going out to bid?
Yes, so this is the request to go out for bid. My next item is actually the extension so that we don't lose services.
Okay, because it got to me, they were done.
Yeah.
Because the next one is we're giving money to someone to keep going while this one is going out for bid.
Yes, it's just so that we don't lapse in services.
Okay. All right, I'm square now, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Klein.
Thanks, Amber.
No problem.
Yeah, thank you, Amber. And so, do we do this every 3 years, 2 years, 1 year?
I believe this is every.
So, the idea is that we would enter into an initial 1-year term, and it would be renewable for up to 3 additional terms. So
Okay, I think I remember that. Okay, thank you.
If we choose to.
Then I will call for a motion on item 4E.
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion to authorize the advertisement of invitation for bids number 090-42025 as presented.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Item 4F, information, discussion, action to approve amendment number 1 to service contract number 051725. It is for janitorial services for northern and southern Gila County, short term with Janiserve Incorporated, extending the term through February 28th, 2026, and increasing the contract amount to a new contract total of $179,114.85. Amber.
Yes, so this is just the extended services so that we don't lose janitorial services while we go out for bid. This is an extended amount. It's about $20,000 a month on average for both southern and northern Gila County. This is just to, like I said, make sure that you go to the bathroom and there's toilet paper.
Okay, very good. Supervisor Humphrey.
Yeah, I'm fine. No questions.
Supervisor Klein.
Thank you, Amber.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I was gonna clarify whether or not 2 months was 179,000.
Yeah, no,
So
it's,
that's for the
this
whole-
is extending
That's for
it.
14 months,
Yes,
basically.
yep.
Okay, got it. I'll call for motion.
I move to approve amendment number 1 to service contract number 051725 with Jana Serve Incorporated as presented.
And I'll second that.
Motion is second to approve. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very good, thank you. Merry Christmas. 4G, information discussion action to approve amendment number 2 to contract number CTR 061839, Payson Courthouse remodel with Skyline Builders and Restoration, extending the term of the contract through January 31st, 2026. Joseph.
Chairman, members of the board, I'm happy to share that the Payson Courthouse remodel is complete, has delivered significant improvements to safety, accessibility, and overall court's operations, meeting all of our goals. Today's request is to approve the amendment number 2, not for additional work or cost, but to allow us to properly close the project out. Key improvements included a new roof, expanded security checkpoint and lobby, adding about 340 square feet of operational space to improve the screening and separate entry and exit traffic. An expanded courtroom, adding roughly 280 square feet there, which improves the separation between the courts, jury, and gallery. A full ADA compliance upgrade throughout the facility, a new fire suppression system on both floors, and upgraded all MEP programs to include the HVAC systems. This improved the clerk of the court workspace and full reconfiguration of data and low voltage cabling, eliminating surface mounted wiring. From a delivery standpoint, this project went exceptionally well. It was completed under budget, ahead of schedule, and without escalation. Court operations were temporarily relocated, returned with no interruption in services, and by using in-house resources from the northern and southern maintenance teams, we avoided an estimated $80,000 to $120,000 in relocation costs. This is a strong team effort, and I want to thank the facilities team, our partners in IT, community development, and the courts, and all auxiliary operations for their collaboration throughout the project. Again, the board originally approved this contract on March of 2024, and this is just to extend it so that we can close out and complete any audits and warranties and file documentation. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Supervisor Humphrey.
No questions. Good job.
Supervisor Klein.
Me neither. Thank you, Joseph.
Yeah, thank you, Joseph. Good to hear that we got it done in a timely fashion. Is everyone happy over there or not? That's a broad question.
With the construction, yes. With the rest, who knows?
I'm glad it's done. I'm glad we got it. And also we paid for it with ARPA money, which is all beneficial. So, all right. Thank you. I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion to approve amendment number 2 to contract number CTR 061839 with Skyline Builders and Restoration Incorporated as.
I'll second that.
We have a motion, a second to approve. Those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. Merry Christmas. 4H is information, discussion, action to adopt resolution number 25-12-01, which establishes revised procedures for the sale of land held by the state under tax deed. It repeals resolution number 15-05-05. Charlotte, you have something for us.
Yes. Good morning, Chairman and members of the board. In July of 2003, a resolution was adopted to establish procedures for the sale of state tax deeded land in accordance with Arizona revised state statutes. In May of 2015, the Board of Supervisors repealed that resolution for some minor changes in language. This new resolution that we have here is to reflect that the Board of Supervisors will no longer conduct a live auction to sell the newly deeded state-owned land, but will instead conduct the auction through public surplus and online auction service, and also to include some changes in statute. It is important to note that this resolution still contains the statement allowing the board to waive the requirement to sell the property for no less than the total lien amount if the condition warrants selling a parcel at a lesser price. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Supervisor Humphrey.
I have no questions. I think that's a great setup. Thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Klein.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Charlotte. I have no questions. I'll call for motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to adopt resolution number 25-12-01 as presented.
I'll second that, Mr.
Motion and a second to approve. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Our item 4I is information discussion action to approve each board member's representation on various boards, committees, and organizations for 2026. Manager Menlove.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, as you can see on the agenda item, the assignments for committees and boards and different things that you sit on have been identified. I can take the time to read through these for each of you, or we can go by the list that has been included and present that to you for your consideration and potential adoption.
Supervisor Humphrey, are you happy with the list presented?
I believe so, yes.
Supervisor Klein, same question.
Yeah, I'm fine.
And so am I. So let's forego the reading. And is there any other presentation beyond that?
No.
Then I'll call for motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion to approve each board member's representation on various boards, committees, and organizations for 2026, the same as in 2025.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second to approve. Those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Menlove. We have consent agenda items 5A through F. Supervisor Humphrey, would you like to discuss one or more of those separately from the consent agenda?
No, I think I'm fine.
Supervisor Klein, same question.
Good to go.
I now call for a motion to approve consent agenda items 5A through F.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve consent agenda items 5A through 5F.
And I'll second that.
Motion and a second to approve. Those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Call to the public, item number 6. Cassie, what do we have over there?
We're at 60 views today.
And, okay, and no call to the public, very good. Lisa looks pretty lonely. Okay, we're good. Anyone here in Payson, Globe, that wishes to speak to us, call from the public? No. All right, moving on to item 7, which is our reports. Mr. Manager.
Mr. Chairman, I did want to point out one thing, a meeting I had last Friday with the president, Jan Brucker, and the president of the college board, and then Janice Lawhorn, the president of the college, that met with them, discussed with them why we could no longer contribute the $250,000 that we had been for the accreditation, and simply that where we had the agreement before did not exist anymore. The Community College District has been replaced by the Gila Community College District. I talked to them about that and did let them know that I believe that you as a board continue to support the college and want to see them succeed, that we do include $250,000 in the budget to support programs and things that are specifically identified. Let them know that it is included in the budget for 25-26 this fiscal year, and that if they do have a specific program, that they come to you as a board, present information for your consideration of potentially partnering with the Gila Community College District to further education in Gila County. So they left it at that, and they appreciate your support, appreciate the opportunities that they have. Did talk to them about the things that we might need at Gila County of developing heavy equipment operators, developing healthcare, and developing attorneys, office staff, and all those different types of things that we could maybe turn to them, partner with the college to help train and educate our students, that we could help in paying for that, and then also increase the FTSE, the full-time student equivalent for the college. So I think a very productive meeting. Expect them in the next few months to come to you for programs that they would like to partner with you on. So also I have scheduled a couple of weeks off, Christmas holidays, and I will be available, but trying to get some time with family. And wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Humphrey.
Yeah, Mr. Minloff, thank you very much for that, because we went into an executive session, so I felt as if I couldn't talk about it. And so I'm glad that you did have a meeting with them and that we are supporting them. So thank you very much for that. This up here is, I ran into Eddie Esparza the other day, and he handed me this. He says, Supervisor Humphrey, would you frame this? And I said, yes, I will. And it says, we the people of Globe, Miami, San Carlos, refuse to sink. And so
That's cool.
what he had given me. I told him that I would frame it, and I'm setting it here just as a reminder that we're going to keep trying to go forward and help. I held a Roosevelt community meeting on the 15th at 1, was on KQSS on the 15th at 5:30. Held a monthly meeting with the deputy county manager and department heads on the 10th. Attended a flood strategy response meeting with Public Works on the 9th. Was interviewed by Globe Miami Times on the Russell Gulch landfill, and also Aaron Codiga was there and Christine Smith as well in that interview. So there'll be a story coming out with her hopefully before too long. And I held a Tonto Basin community meeting on the 2nd. So other than that, that's about it. I'd like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and to be safe and happy in your travels. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Klein.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know if you guys have been receiving, you may have, from people upset about insurance being dropped again. Seems like a big push recently. We've had a lot of calls on that. Mostly up there in the Christopher Creek, Ponderosa Springs, Colcord Estates area. So we're continuing to get calls about that. I'm not sure what's ever going to happen there, but we'll see. Then on Saturday, December 6th, the Veterans Retreat had cookies and coffee and had a pretty good turnout there. There's about 35 folks showed up for that. So that was a good turnout. I was gonna try and attend a Payson Tea Party Christmas dinner this afternoon, but I'm not gonna make it. So I think other than that, that's all I had. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thank you, Supervisor. I'm looking for something. I believe you both received, as well as I did, an email from Jeff Robbins, and it was in regard to the insurance that you're speaking of. Embedded in that is what the governor has been working on with several different strategy groups, and there is a list of it's not an all-exclusive list, but there is a list of insurance agents and companies that are willing to carry insurance. And we'll make sure you get it. I can't seem to find it on my phone at this. Here it is. It was Monday. Let me look. And it was to all three of you. It's from GPA Daddy-O. GPA Daddy-O. Okay? And that was yesterday. And that conversation came up actually on KMOG. I had my regular program, and so this was a caller that called in and said that he was a part of that. And yes, there is a lot of concern over it, and it could be very impactful if insurance companies stop insuring us for financing, for everything. And so I would hate to see the government or the state have to come in, mandate something with the insurance companies. I would hope that we would all just get a level head. I think some of the changes that have occurred that I've been told about was that our fire rating has been changed and is much higher now to something that is impalatable, I guess, to the insurance companies. So the KMOG was a good program again. I did mention some of the programs that we're looking forward to coming next year, which are going to be some paving programs. There's some chip seal. I did mention a few roads, and one of them was the Geisela Road. Apparently that garnered quite a bit of attention. I just said that Christine had said that she was willing to do some initial fixes before they come up with a futuristic plan of a major improvement, if that is coming. And so anyway, Supervisor Humphrey got a few calls on that, appreciating that. Okay, so also mentioned the Gibson Ranch Road, which is in Mr. Klein's district, which is pretty rugged, pretty rough. And I think we're looking at doing that in the spring, as far as I know. Wayne told me that. And then Cemetery Road in my district up in Pine, a complete disaster. And that's just three. That's just three. And we had the electric light parade in Payson again. It's an annual event. It went really well. I do want to wish my fellow supervisors a happy Christmas and a Merry New Year, as well as everyone else. It's a good time. I'm glad you're taking some time. Let's all take some time to be with family and enjoy ourselves and be safe. And so this is the close of 2025. I look very forward to 2026. I think it's going to even be a better year. So
I like that attitude. That's good.
you got to have it. You got to have a good attitude, positive. Yeah, I do think. We need some weather. We need some water, but we're going to do great. Anyway, thank you very much. If there's nothing else, we are adjourned. Thank you.